It's March 2019, and the tunnel that runs under the sea between Folkestone in England and Calais in France is just weeks away from its 25th birthday, and days away from the official deadline for Brexit.
Look how white those little ones are.
Gorgeous, aren't they?
How do they get on that? Why? Look at them.
Well, they're not like ordinary dogs, are they? They're pampered.
Oh, yeah.
It's also the day after Crufts, the famous dog show.
Yeah, I bet there's some money's worth out there.
Oh, I bet, yeah.
So it's a mellow Monday morning for staff at the Folkestone terminal. A pause before winds of change blow through the longest undersea tunnel in the world.
The white cliffs of Dover may soon be a sight missed by channel crossers. It's possible that by 1976 there'll be a tunnel link. The projected plan is for a rail link. France could soon be 35 minutes and almost £300 million away, and a tunnel would rid us of weather worries like this. If the tunnel is built, and a final decision is unlikely to be taken for another 2 years, high-speed electric trains could ferry up to 3,000 cars an hour between Britain and France.
Why did it say France? Oh, because that's where it's going.
The Channel Tunnel is the only physical link between Britain and continental Europe, and it's 25 years old.
Who's 25 years old?
The tunnel we're going on.
Is it? It's older than me. To you. It's older than me.
Who's that then? Oh, that's a young. I didn't recognise you there, Mick.
What was once a futuristic pipe dream became a real-life wonder of the modern world in the early 90s.
Look, there's the train.
After 6 years of tunnel construction from both ends.
How much do you reckon it cost to build?
20 billion?
25.
4.65 billion.
Oh, really?
Yep, that's 12 billion today. It was 80% more than they thought it was going to cost.
Always is though, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's run by an Anglo-French company called Eurotunnel, and since the Queen travelled through the tunnel on the 6th of May 1994, more than 400 million people have taken a train under the English Channel.
Are we going to have to get out? Surely it does feel like the Rush on the vampire rides. You know when it goes up and then it goes down.
You're not feeling a bit claustrophobic?
I'm gradually starting to feel a little bit sick. That's because I'm really hungover.
To mark this quarter-century milestone, we're going behind the scenes and beneath the seabed for a once-in-a-generation look at the parts of the tunnel we don't normally see. To experience the never-ending challenge of running the biggest, busiest and wettest train set ever built.
Hello there. Are we going to be on time? Okay then, I'm going to get set up.
Tash Speed was 1 month old when the Channel Tunnel opened. Now she's one of Eurotunnel's newest recruits.
My stoplight's extinguished, my driving's allowed, so I'm going to put my direct brake on. I'm going to put my headlight on, which lets everyone on the platform know that I'm ready to depart. And I'm now okay to release my brake on the train.
Just a few weeks after completing her training in a shuttle simulator, Tash spends every working day at the controls of the most powerful locomotives in Europe, taking 800-metre-long trains under the sea to France and back again to England 3 times every shift.
It does feel really good to be driving. As you can feel today, as it's wet, we're slipping a bit underfoot to feel the train's not gripping, which is something that's really good to feel because in the simulator, you're only simulated what's in front of you, so it's good to actually get a feel for how the train moves. We've got a man up there who's checking our lorries as we go in. He's called an ADF and he's checking that nothing on the train could potentially catch fire or cause damage, at which point if he thought there was a problem he would call us back and we would reverse back onto the platform.
Today, Tash is pulling a freight shuttle loaded with 32 trucks.
And we've got 60 on the TBM.
It weighs 2,500 tonnes, and it's about to go down an extremely slippery slope.
Going into the tunnel, you get a speed of 60, but the gradient's so steep that the train could run away with itself, so it's important to stay under the speed limit. So what we're doing now is monitoring the speed. That's now gotten up to 100, so I can now ask for more traction. And I'm just making sure the train gets up to top speed. The first time I drove on my own through the tunnel, I can say it's probably one of the scariest things I've ever done in my life. Every noise sounds like the train is broken, and actually they're quite substandard noises like a phone ringing, and you think, oh no, what is it? What's happened? But at the end of the day, the more time you spend down here, the same with anything, you get used to the noises, you get used to the bumps of the train, the movement of the train, the movement of the tunnel, and how it works. And then you can start to recognise actually real faults, not what I perceive to be a fault, like a phone ringing.
A scary sensation that can affect train drivers in tunnels is something called segment flicker. The relentless waves of lines and lights could hypnotise the driver, so the windows of the shuttle cabs were designed to restrict the view. But even if Tash did become entranced, the train would be protected by the dead man's pedal.
This has to be reset every minute, and if it isn't reset within 3 seconds, the emergency brake would come on, the brake gauge would drop to 0, and the train would do an emergency stop, because in theory it thinks that something's happened to the driver. So you have to get used to tapping your foot and remembering to do it, otherwise you get a sharp shock from the back buzzer.
This is just the first of 6 toe-tapping trips for Tash today. But at Eurotunnel, no one calls it a trip or even a journey. Every train is on a mission. And every mission needs a mission control.
All the trains started with number 7 are the HGV trains. All the ones starting with the 6 are the tourist train, the passengers one. Starting with the 9, this one is a Eurostar. And also we will have sometimes some freight train, which are, we will start with the 4.
This is Eurotunnel's rail control centre at Folkestone. Most of the staff on shift today are French, like Chloe Bitteau. And this big, beautiful wall shows the whole Channel Tunnel system.
It's a big representation and we can see roughly where all the trains are.
It's really a giant figure-of-8 train set, with a clockwise loop in the UK and an anti-clockwise loop in France, and 2 31-mile railway tunnels in between.
So on the top one is the North Tunnel, the one will run from Folkestone to Calais. And on the south one, South Tunnel, the one will run from Calais to Folkestone.
It's the busiest railway system in the world, running up to 400 trains a day on its 62 miles of track. Most of those trains are Eurotunnel freight shuttles loaded with trucks, and Eurotunnel passenger shuttles loaded with people.
Yay! Are we going upstairs? Oh, I didn't know there was an upstairs. Yay! We're going upstairs again.
The passenger shuttles have double decks at the back for low vehicles and single decks at the front for high vehicles. And all Eurotunnel shuttles are in a perpetual loop, from Folkestone to Calais and back again. But other trains use Eurotunnel's tunnel too. There are freight trains loaded with goods and high-speed Eurostars that zip between London and Paris and other cities on the European mainland. So while passengers sit in vehicles inside the Eurotunnel shuttles, it's foot passengers only on the Eurostars, which shoot straight through at 160 kilometers an hour. After 35 minutes, Tash is back in the living daylights, and it's almost first freight shuttle mission accomplished. All she has to do now is stop the train in exactly the right place on the platform, so the trucks can drive off and straight up the ramps to the motorway. The good news is that if you get it wrong, you only stop twice.
On this one I might be stopping a bit short, yeah. Hence why they call me Two Stop Tash. There we go, that'd be quite a sharp break there, sorry. Okay, that's better. Got a blue flashing light, we've got buses. Hello, two stopping again. That's F9, blue flashing light, and you got 2 buses. Thank you. I've actually had people stand on the platform and laugh at me before because I'm a two-stopping. I don't mind. Now I just set the train up for the next mission, and my chef will unload all the passengers. The buses will take them back to their lorries, they'll drive off, and they'll just literally drive around there, and they're in France.
Don't forget to put your watches forward 1 hour and to drive on the right.
Okay, thank you. Driving on the right. Driving on the right.
Eurotunnel shuttles have to unload and reload in 26 minutes. This keeps a continuous flow of trains back and forth through the north and south tunnels. But there's a third tunnel here where flow is even more important. The service tunnel runs between the rail tunnels, and if there's no flow here, there can be no trains running in the other 2. The service tunnel needs airflow from big, powerful fans on both sides of the channel. At Sangatte, near Calais, there are 2 fans beside the giant chasm where the French started their side of the tunnel back in 1988. Senior technician José Capet has worked here for 27 years, maintaining the ultimate wind tunnel.
In these tubes, we have 70 cubic meters per second of air in the service tunnel, all the day, all the hour, all the years.
That's enough air to fill 60 shipping containers every minute. The fans are the lungs of the Channel Tunnel. There are 4 in the normal ventilation system, or NVS, 2 at Sangatte, and 2 more on the other side of the channel, inside the White Cliffs of Dover. At any time, 1 French fan and 1 English fan sends high-pressure air into the service tunnel from both ends. This creates a fresh air zone for passengers and crew to escape to in an emergency. But eventually, a fan spinning at more than 1,400 revolutions a minute will need some TLC. So at Sangatte, it's time for the 7-year overhaul from the Eurotunnel spin doctors.
Here we are in the NVS plant, where we send the airflow in the service tunnel. We will remove the fans and we will remove the motor. It's a very big job, but it's very important to do it.
First, senior technician Gary Dixon needs to take control of the fans from the Rail Control Centre, or RCC. His team now has exactly 8 hours to get the work done before the RCC takes back control. Next, Gary makes sure both Sangatte fans are switched off and stay off, using a combination of old-school hardware and even older-school software. These fans were installed when the tunnel was being built, so the technology here is the stuff of legend, and it's refusing to give up.
It was put in when the fans were put in the late 80s, so she's getting old now, but she does what she needs to do.
With both fans off at this end, all the air in the service tunnel is coming from 1 fan in England, and the team can get to work. Mike Heath installed the fans here 30 years ago, so he knows what a noisy job this can be. And why it gets even noisier every time a train goes past in the tunnels 50 metres below.
Air pressure that's coming up from the tunnel, we get a small amount of leakage, and that leakage creates some noise as the air passes through the seals, just like an organ. She's moving.
With the blades removed, it's time to take out the heart of the fan.
This way.
The impeller.
It'll be stripped, cleaned, inspected, overhauled fully, all new components, and reassembled.
Now, a week of work lies ahead. It'll take a team of specialist engineers and motor technicians to turn this big old fan of the 80s around and bring it up to scratch for 2019.
And hopefully good for another 7 years.
Back at the Folkestone terminal, there are some special passengers with some big fans of their own. They're on their way back from world-famous dog show Crufts and feeling cock-a-hoop.
I got a second place with my orange male, a third place with my champion bitch, and with one of our Gordon setters we got second in veteran class. So we done very well. Yeah, we are very happy.
Now it's time for all these hounds to dash under the channel on the next leg of their journey home. And up in the terminal control centre, it's Tanya Pettit and Alison Fair's job to manage the flow of cars to the trains.
Oh, look at that little one, look.
Oh, he's pure white as well.
Yeah, okay.
As soon as they can get a break from watching the dogs.
That's a winner. He won his best in his category.
For these two dog fanatics, this is the perfect way to pass the time when the traffic's flowing freely on the UK side of the tunnel.
It's just ticking over quite nicely. Everything's more or less on time and everything's flowing through the system, which that's a nice day for us because there's no pressure, but that can change as quick as anything.
Romeo 2 Alpha, I've got another low vehicle coming up 16 if we can put him through, please.
It may be calm here, but there are two sides to every tunnel, and things are not so relaxed in Calais. Strikes by French customs officers and a sudden urge to stockpile in the days before the original March deadline for Brexit are causing massive lorry jams on all roads to the tunnel.
A lot of the trains are coming in partially loaded from France because we just can't get the vehicles onto the trains. You know, so we're trying to make the time up on this side so that we can get the train back on time in France.
So the last thing they need now is a freight shuttle that's gone loco.
Once you get it unchocked, just give us a shout and we'll see. We'll hopefully be able to put it straight onto another train.
We've got a train on the platform that has a technical problem,
Okay,
but it's already fully loaded. So it's been declared that it's not leaving the platform, so we need to get the traffic off the train, back around through the system and back onto another train so it can depart.
It's time for something called a recirculation, getting all the trucks to drive off the broken down shuttle that they've just driven onto, up the off-ramp, back around to the down ramps, and onto a platform where the next empty train is waiting.
30 trucks
33.
are coming off that train.
33.
33 trucks coming off the train. They'll go around. Hopefully we can get them round in time to go straight onto another train.
With 25 years' experience, Eurotunnel staff are recirculation choreographers par excellence. As they say in France, oops.
We've had a train on B8 that we're recirculating, so we asked the train on B7 not to unload, but it looks like they haven't paid full attention to the request.
The danger is lorries that have just arrived in England could get themselves mixed up with the recirculating lorries heading to France.
So we've now got vehicles from B8 and B7 coming off the train at the same time, which could mean some of the vehicles from B7 could end up recirculated, going back to France when they've literally just come from France.
Although lorry drivers are renowned for their patience, there is a danger that some might be mildly miffed at finding themselves heading back to France minutes after arriving in England.
So the traffic's now coming around.
Dispatcher OB1, allocation.
We're going to swing it around and up the platform, back round again, and then put it back on the next train. So they've all been recirculated, all on another train, ready to head off again. Fingers crossed.
The recirculation has worked. All the lorries that wanted to go to France are going to France. And all the new arrivals in the UK are off to the M20.
First recirc, Tom.
And Tanya and new boy Tom Jordan can relax.
It's perfect. Do a lap of honour around the TCC. Next time he's on his own.
Back in France, it's a week since Mike and Gary's team removed the giant fan from the Eurotunnel plant at Sangatte. With the fan blades and the impeller back in place, its first fan mission completed at the French end.
Clamp it on the ring the other side.
But this is the easy part. Because next stop for the Channel Tunnel fanboys is on much more challenging English soil. Samphire Hoe, a 30-hectare nature reserve built from rock bored out of the seabed to make way for the tunnel. This is where the trains go under the sea, and the ventilation system is inside the white cliffs of Dover. So unlike Sangatte, where the horizontal fans are easy to reach, the fans here are vertical, and 18 metres down a shaft. It takes 2 days to lift every component to the surface. This 1-ton rotor is the heaviest. One slip up here, and something nasty will really hit the fan.
Once it's on the floor, we're happy. Any lift is exactly the same. All the time it's in lifting operations, yeah. We're hearting them out. It's on the floor, we're happy, and we're ready to do the bearing change.
Scary part over, Jose's come to take a closer look at the black hole where the fan used to be.
This hole is the shaft. Normally this motor is air, and the motor takes the air by these tubes, takes the air outside, the atmospheric air, and send it in this hole.
And that atmospheric air, the stuff you and I breathe all the time, leaves its mark after 7 years of constant flow.
All the road traffic.
Yes, the road traffic, the diesel, the finest particles.
But what takes 7 years to make dirty can be cleaned up in hours. Now the challenge is to extend the life of these revolutionary pieces of tunnel machinery.
Everything's got to be just right. You don't want to have to come back to it for at least another 5 to 7 years.
Every year, £12 billion worth of fruit and veg comes through the Eurotunnel. So, I don't want to get too much into Brexit, but isn't the whole Brexit thing going to just make things really difficult to bring the stuff across? Yeah. So we've got to grow our own vegetables. Yeah. Because that's what everyone wants. Back to war times, Amber. That's what we all want.
On peut se mettre devant. Vous pouvez vous mettre devant si vous voulez.
It's the 28th of March, and TV, radio and newspaper journalists have blown into Calais to see how Eurotunnel plans to keep everything flowing after Brexit.
So my name's John Keefe. I'm Director of Public Affairs for Eurotunnel. My name's John Keefe. That's KWFE. Je suis Directeur des Affaires Publiques, Eurotunnel.
Today, the company is showing how £13 million has been spent getting ready for a hard Brexit or a no deal. Having sued the UK government over the handling of extra freight contracts, the pressure's on to show that the tunnel is ready for whatever Brexit brings.
Ici, à ce qu'on appelle notre pit stop. This is built for worst case scenarios. We are ready for Brexit today. Today is all about showing everybody what new infrastructure we've got and how that will help the traffic to keep flowing in the worst case of a no-deal Brexit, whenever that might happen. Borders elsewhere around the world tend to be very paper-based and very manual. This is a fantastic opportunity to bring the border into the 21st century.
The plan relies on technology, with number plate recognition and document scanners capturing information on every truck.
We'll take that scan here at the security controls whilst they're already stopped. So doing the scan won't add any time into the process. we're checking for the presence of illegal people on board the trucks, and at the same time, while the driver is stationary as we carry out those controls, we will scan the customs documents and send them both to the export and to the importing countries.
With documents uploaded to the authorities on both sides of the channel, the trucks are free to board their shuttles. And trucks coming from the UK have a simple choice.
If they get a green light here, they go on the green lane straight through to the motorway. If they get an orange light here, it means they follow the orange lane into the Customs and Ministry for Agriculture selection zone.
In theory, it's £13 million well spent to keep things flowing. In practice, it might be £13 million down the tubes.
This is the wonderful thing about Brexit. We've built all of this stuff that we don't need. And we won't need it until we have a hard Brexit or until we have a no deal. If we have a deal, this is pointless. But for a business like ours, we just couldn't take the risk that we wouldn't need it.
The press day's gone well. John's got his message out, and no journalists were harmed in the making of this film.
I think between us we can say that journalists are not the most disciplined group of people in the world, and so getting through this without anything going wrong has been a real success story.
Back in England, the overhaul of the ventilation fan is almost complete. Now it's time to put the impeller, the guide vane and the rotor back in place, and slide the entire mechanism back over the hole to the tunnel below. And just in time, because the second fan here has suffered a sudden electrical fault and won't restart. With all the air coming from one fan in France, it's crucial to get the reconditioned fan back up and running, and Jose is waiting patiently in the service tunnel below, trying to catch the wind. Being invisible, wind doesn't make great telly. So we asked him to bring a whirligig to work today, to show how strong the airflow gets when the fans are running.
We've lost the control voltage, so it's a good job we've got a backup fan, a standby fan, and it's back online just in time.
Yes, we are now. The fresh air come. Yes, good. Perfect.
Jose's whirligig is at top speed, and 40 metres overhead, Mike's slightly more high-tech equipment tells him the refurbished fan is spinning just as he hoped.
We're looking at everything, all the signs are good. Everything's perfect. So, all good.
So Jose can head back to France, with the trains running and the fans spinning.
Yes, we have 50 kilometers to do.
And air flowing freely from both sides of the English Channel.
But at the middle point, we have fresh air was come from France, and it's better for me.